Hello, so here's the frame that we just created for this rock. And now I'm gonna start to create the thinner wire around to trap it. And this rock is really cool because it lends itself to have a little design on the surface. And so I'm gonna use that to inspire how I use the wire to create line. So I'm gonna start with about 1.5 feet. I don't know what size you're gonna each need because everybody has a different size object and it really depends on how many times you wanna wrap it. I wouldn't start with less than 1 foot, but if you get too long, you will have a hard time wrapping it around. So the first step is I'm gonna find a place where I'd like to start to wrap. I'm gonna start my wrapping I kinda like starting it in a crook, like right here, because it helps trap it, like where there's a bend. So what I do is I take this and I'm gonna wrap this around a few times. And I'm just using my fingers right now, but I'm gonna go in later and use the pliers because the pliers will make it tighter and maybe not move quite as much. So I've wrapped it about, I don't know, 3 times around there. And now I'm gonna go around and really kind of work my way around and make it tighter. So I'm not gonna show you this whole entire process because for me to wrap this, it would take a while. But I'm gonna show you the beginning and then I'll show you the end. So now I have this piece on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work my way underneath it first. And I'm gonna end up over here because I like this line that's going past. And so it's this exchange of working over and behind, front and back, to make this rock trap inside this frame. So when I get to each end, I'm going to make sure that I wrap it around just a couple times. So there's one time, and I'm gonna do it again. Just to make sure it's tight. And I like to use my pliers once again to kind of tighten it around the edges. And I can take this out for now so you can see this is the behind part. And I'm kind of trying to get it tight. It takes a couple seconds to do that. You got to pay attention to what you're doing when you're working with wire because it's really finicky. I'm not a wire wrapper, so you know, you're seeing someone that has beginning techniques of wire. I usually solder and different things like that. So now I'm here, so I'm gonna make this line come down this way, and you'll see what starts to happen once I know you can't see it very well, but I'm coming across and I'm going to wrap it around now again. You want to wrap it at least twice around the frame each time you come to the edge. And if you need it to be tighter, you can use the pliers to kind of pull and kind of tug. The pliers are good for straightening. So I've made a line that goes across. Now I'm underneath again. So I want to go underneath, but I want to think about where do I want my wire to be when I come back around. So I think I'm going to come, do you see this little line there's a little line. I'm going to come up to bounce off that line and use that as part of my design. So I'm going to cross it over. And I'm doing this kind of quick so you can see. So if I was doing this for real, I would be really thinking about and taking my time of how I create the wire design where I want it to be exactly. But I just want you to get the idea of what I'm doing. So I've wrapped it around twice. And now I'm gonna, so I could make bends in my wire, you know, like that. I could cross my wire underneath. I can do a lot of things to this wire. So I'm gonna kind of go like that. So I just like made a bend and came up. And so I'm gonna pause the video and then show you kind of the end. But this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of going over, taking it through a couple times, and then thinking about where I want my wire to end up when I come back around. So I'm gonna